Hi guys, welcome to Coffee with Kelly. I am here with my friend Jana Groscost, and she is going to talk about good vibe money. And good vibe money is something super cool that she's been doing for a long time, helping people with their core beliefs and emotional beliefs around money. And I did some exercises with her. She's got a lot of different modalities on her website and different little workshops that she does. And it's really cool. So thank you, Jana, for being here. I'm so excited to chat with you.
Thank you, Kelly. I appreciate being here. It's exciting.
It is exciting, and it's Friday. Yay.
Hey, I know. Fearless Friday is what I call it.
Yeah.
And I have to say, Kelly has done amazing since using some of the activities that we've worked on. I love seeing the aha moments.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, especially when, I told you I'd paid my car off and you were like, well, what are you doing with that money? And I thought, uh-oh, I'm busted. Like my car payment was $300, $350. I paid it off like a year ago, and I didn't even think about putting that $350 into a savings account until you and I talked. And then I was like, oh my gosh, so now I'm finally on the right track and I have a goal with that money. And I don't even know what that is a year, whatever, but that's like a trip. So anyway, yeah. So thanks for bringing that to my attention. That was very cool. It was
Oh, my pleasure.
a lot of little
I'll do whatever I can to help you out. And that's the thing is it's so easy for us to get a paycheck and then you literally spend it all, right? Unless you allocate or determine where that money's supposed to go. It's sort of like, oh, I've got the money in the bank, I can spend that, or, we'll go out because I still have money there. And it's so easy to just suck up all of the extra money that we have and then wonder where it goes. And, that's one of the reasons I started doing this was as a tax accountant, I'd get to the end of the year and my clients would say, I made that much money. Where did it all go? So everybody spends everything that they receive for the most part, unless you learn how to do something else with it.
Right. And one of the things that I really love, most people know about Dave Ramsey, and I learned about him, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago, I started working with him, but what he doesn't do, what you do, that he doesn't do is touch on the emotional and the psychological and the spiritual aspects around money, because you can logically put all those things into place. But if you have deep-seated emotional beliefs about money, which I did, money is bad, guys with money are dicks. Like I had a lot of weird, and I grew up with scarcity. So I grew up in fight, flight mode for many, many years. So my relationship with money was completely diluted. I didn't even know what that looked like. So, and they don't teach it in school. And so I'm so glad that you're here, because we were talking before the video, and I'm so grateful that you're here now. And I wish when I was in my 20s, I had someone like you, to be a financial mentor for me.
Yeah, don't we all, right? Like we need to learn this stuff in high school, if not before. Because again, you get out of high school or college and all of a sudden you're making money and you don't know how to spend it. And Dave Ramsey has amazing programs. And a lot of the stuff I do, there's not a lot of extra stuff you can do with money. So what he teaches are the foundational principles that we should all follow, and the stuff that I integrate in my programs too. But the nice thing is if you don't know the core beliefs, and most of our core beliefs are created before we're age 5. Our beliefs about money, relationships, our health, everything is set before we even have the emotional maturity to deal with it. So, think about a time that maybe you went to the store and your mom said, go ahead and pick out some candy, and you go to pick something out and she yells at you, not that one. What do you think I am, made of money? Right. And all of a sudden your fear is, oh my gosh, I can't ask for anything, because if I do, someone's going to yell at me, yeah. Right? Mm-hmm. So it's in those moments that all of a sudden we change our behavior and our personality, and those core beliefs are set. And without going back and unwinding those, we follow the same patterns, and we never get past those glass ceilings that we set in our own mind that hold us back from really achieving true financial wealth.
Right, right. So what, how did you get on this path? Like what led you to this path?
It's a really good question. You know, coming from an accounting world and, you know, doing tax forever, one of the things that really drove me was wanting to empower, especially women financially, right? Because obviously there's usually a wage disparity and things that are taking place that hold us back from really achieving true financial wealth. And like you mentioned before, we aren't really taught how to manage money. So that was one of the key driving factors to me wanting to teach women about money. But then I have this other side of me that I used to have the golden touch when it came to manifesting, and I could literally create anything that I wanted. And people were always asking me, how do you do that? And I literally couldn't tell them. I knew I worked hard, right? But working hard isn't always the answer. We have to work smarter as well as working hard to get our goals. And when I started asking my question, how do I do that? And how do I teach other people to do that? It really took me on this spiritual journey of, you know, how am I doing this, and why are other people struggling so much? So I literally had to learn what struggle was like and how difficult. It's one thing to work hard and to struggle for something. It's something else if you don't have the tools or you don't have the resources or whatever supports you. And so I literally lost everything twice. Not once, right? Like once would have been a good lesson, but no,
Right.
twice. You had to like double whammy there. But in going through that whole process, the thing that kept me going is the mantra, what am I learning from this and what can I teach? And in going through that mantra, it helped me look at things from all perspectives, understanding what it felt like to make sure that I had eggs, milk, and flour in my house so I could always make pancakes for my kids.
Mhm.
And to this day, they think that was the best dinner in the world, that I said, oh, we're having breakfast for dinner. And here I'm thinking I'm a bad mom, right? Like I'm thinking, oh, I'm the worst mom in the world. I can't provide for my kids.
Breakfast is great for dinner.
I know, exactly. And, you know, they still giggle about that. They're like, oh my gosh, I thought that was the best thing. But it was my attitude about making it exciting for them that they didn't realize on the inside I was just dying. And so it really came full circle to understand what it was like to really struggle and not have the resources to create abundance, and learning to manifest from that internal perspective, not the ego mind, but manifesting from this co-creative process with our higher self. And that to me is where the magic came in. So I started creating programs that, you know, I saw these as two separate worlds. And I just kept asking the universe, it's like, how do I marry these two? You know, the logical left brain, analytical, strategic planning, all of that stuff, and the right brain of spiritual and emotional and, you know, all this other woo-woo stuff. And, you know, I just started playing with it. And it really took me 5 or 6 years to kind of fine tune things and see what that, because it needed to feel right to me. And it took a little while for me to really embrace that, because I felt like it needed to be separate worlds, and it doesn't. So that to me is where the magic started happening. And just, you know, I'm on a mission really to empower women financially.
Right. And I think, and that's amazing because I mean, I just, even all my friends, I mean, you know, nobody I grew up with really had an idea of what money was supposed to look like. I was telling you before we start our interview, I read a book called Money is My Friend. And it even talked about Reiki and spiritual work, because when I was doing that work, I felt guilty for taking money for it. And so there's so much guilt around money and making money. And I've even felt like, oh, am I greedy if I want a Range Rover? Am I greedy? Maybe I should just play small and do that. And then I keep trying to tell myself I'm a good person. I deserve to have those things, but I feel guilty because I want more. Like that is a total mess with my mind all the time. And that's just coming from my own experience, right? So, I mean, obviously I'm still in your program. It's a work in progress and I'm working through those issues, but I love that you marry the left brain and the right brain, because if people did that in medicine, like we would go so far, right? Western doctors and Eastern doctors, when you mix the two together, you have the perfect recipe for success and happiness and peace, you know, without having to go through like, you know, as much struggle to try to figure that out. You know what I mean? Because I
Yeah.
think a lot of people, at least for me anyway, I did not ever know, piece together that money was a psychological thing.
It's true. And yet there's so much psychology behind all the reasons we don't create. I mean, think about even not feeling enough, right? Like, how do I attract more money to me or make more money if I don't feel worthy and deserving of making, say, $10,000 a month, right? Like, how do I get beyond that if I don't feel that within me?
Right.
And I mean, it comes down to mindfulness. It comes down to understanding how you're sabotaging yourself, which, like anything, right? Like, we're all very good at self-sabotage in some capacity. And we have to really be mindful of what's taking place so that we can create some sort of circuit breaker that stops those neurons from creating that, same behavior. And when we stop it, then in that conscious moment, we have the opportunity to make a different choice.
Mm-hmm.
And it's in the choices that we have the magic. So until we consciously make that connection, the patterns really continue.
Right. And you like, how did you build this? I know you're really good at building websites, and you've learned so much in your life. So you've been able to kind of, you're an entrepreneur, obviously, but how did a lot of times people want to create something, but they don't know how to do it, right? So you were passionate about this. You're a numbers girl, clearly by nature. You're a spiritual person by nature, and you bring those two together. Now, was there any how did you get there? Like, did you have like a business plan or a like a mission statement? Like, what did that look like for you?
I definitely had a mission statement. I did not have a business plan. It was called, well, I should say I had a business plan. It was called Flying by the Seat of Your Pants, right? Like, that was my business plan. And I didn't know what it was going to look like. I didn't know if people would be interested in what I had to share. And I had to overcome my own insecurities of even being on camera like this probably 5 years ago would have freaked me out. Everything was done over the phone. I could, say whatever I just say, but they never saw me. And
Right.
so we're in this whole new world of, I love Zoom now. Like, I can't imagine life without being in video conferencing now. And it was definitely a process, even for me to overcome to get to this place. By nature, I've always been an entrepreneur. My dad's an entrepreneur. It runs in my family. It's definitely in my blood. I've been doing entrepreneurial things since I was probably 10 years old. And, never, even in college, I remember one of the professors asking, how many of you anticipate having your own business? And I didn't raise my hand. I was like, I'm looking for the security. I need stability, right? I had no intention of being self-employed. And yet I find when I work for somebody else, it's their business. And I can make recommendations, but they're ultimately calling the shots. So I can do consulting for them and walk away, and they can accept what I offer or not. It doesn't emotionally weigh on me either way. But running my own business is, I feel the sense of satisfaction. I'm energized by it. And it's definitely what I need to be doing.
Right, right. And like, who are your clients? Both individual people and like business owners, or kind of where's your client demographic?
I have both. In fact, the program that I just started recently, probably about 50% of them have small businesses. And as I was looking for the demographic of this particular program, I was thinking, and especially this year, I was thinking, okay, how can I be of service? And obviously a lot of people are in fear, especially around money, and it's bringing up all the scarcity issues that our families have had, and those patterns are sort of percolating. So I saw it really as a ripe time to clear those particular issues for those who wanted to participate. And really what came out of it was understanding that, we go through these life cycles and we kind of hit those plateaus, and how do we get beyond that? And it's in that moment that we can either shrink back into the old way of doing things or moving forward. So it's definitely been a process to kind of get to that place.
Right. And I love that your services are affordable, which is so, I mean, so many things that I've looked at, like whether it's teachers or this or that. I mean, some retreats or some workshops are like, $400 to $1,500. And I'm like, I don't have that kind of money and I don't want to put it on a card. So then I don't do it, and then I try to braille my way through that. But your programs are affordable really for anybody. I mean, they're affordable. And that is so refreshing, especially right now in COVID, when so many people are losing their jobs. They're in that scarcity. They need something. They are limited on the funds, but they need that financial coach to remind them that they are enough and it will be okay. And not to, you can feel that scarcity, but you don't want to live in that space and let that reside in you 24/7. Otherwise it just makes you crazy. Right.
Right. And how do you move beyond that? Right. It's like, I feel this fear, but yet how do I move beyond that? And that's one of the reasons this program I used to offer for $485. And this year I was playing with numbers and it's sort of like, okay, what sort of price point? And the latest course that I offer is a 9-week course. I mean, it's literally like going to a college course. In fact, people are walking into this and I said, the classes are Tuesday and Thursday, right? Like set your schedule, pretend like this is a course that you're taking like in college.
Online learning, right?
Yeah, exactly. And just set yourself up for that type of success. And it's interesting because, I mean, in just 2 weeks, I'm seeing people just light up with the aha moments of, oh my gosh, now I see why I've been acting like this or doing that. And that to me is so rewarding. That is exactly why I do this. It's not, how much money can I make from this? Because the universe is supporting me. So I'm always receiving abundance. And if it comes from the course, that's great. And if it comes from other sources, then that's where it comes from. So I can't really designate where that money comes from. I have to be open to where money is coming from.
Right. Which I've had to do the same thing, being an entrepreneur and self-employed myself. But yeah, I love the fact that it's affordable, and I love the fact that you've tailored that through COVID and through such a time where, we just need people to, I mean, even the Coffee with Kelly, that I don't make any money on this, you know what I mean? Like, it's just a time for us to reach out and step up. And, if we can afford to, help people a little bit, great. If we can afford to give free information, that's great, but I've gotten so much out of your classes and I'm looking forward to it. What am I in, week 2? So yeah, it's going really good.
There's a lot going on. I know. And that's the thing, is just really asking, how can we be of service, and not stopping that and saying, but I'm used to making, right? Because everything is in transition right now. And if we're in this mindset of things going back to, say, our old fee schedule, or, making that, and I'm not saying we're not going to become wealthy and abundant from all of this, but it's being very mindful that right now may not be that time to be making those, big paydays, and being okay with it, not going into the fear of, oh my gosh, I'm using all my savings and, I'm depleting these various parts of my life, or, things are slower, but recognizing that we all go through cycles, right? There's never a straight line to anything that we try to achieve.
No.
So we have to be open, even with our money, to not go into fear factor and close down and close our fists, and just being open to, what am I receiving right now? And you're right, there are so many people that are giving programs away and information away, and it's a tremendous way to connect with other people. And who knows where it's going to lead, but the more open we are to those possibilities, the easier it will be for us to kind of navigate these transitions.
Right. And what goes up comes down, and we're going to get through this COVID thing together. And it is just a temporary thing. But I really think that, and I'm sure I'd love you to get your take on this, but I mean, what is COVID teaching us? Because we don't, we've been locked down and we don't get to go out and just be so frivolous. Like, we kind of have to sit with our feelings. At least me, I like to go shopping and this and go out to eat and blah, blah, blah. And I'm trying to be safe. And I do a little bit of that safely just to stay sane, but it's not to the level. So it forces you to go introspection and go, okay, where is it that I feel not enough, that I have to fill myself up with outside sources that I don't need?
Oh,
So,
so
can you speak to that a little bit through the process and through your program?
yes, absolutely. And you're right. It's sort of we've had all these distractions around us, and it's like they literally got stripped away in a split second. And I think it was really hard for the first month where people were, it's like, what do I do? I've got time on my hands and I need to be busy and I need to constantly doing something. And it really weighs not only on our psyche, but on our nervous system. Because even though we're not in fight or flight mode, we've been in this hyper state for so long where every gap of our life is filled. And in doing that, it's really in the gap that we have the opportunity for magic to happen. It's in those moments of daydreaming and downtime that we just sort of go, oh, I've got a new idea, or I haven't thought of that before. I should be doing this. And to me, that's this slowdown process that I've personally learned from this experience of being in lockdown and the whole world shutting down. And like you, like retail therapy was
Yeah.
one of my things. And we all have some level of addiction.
Yeah.
It's, something that we sort of have to escape with.
Yeah.
And it's understanding, so like, why am I doing that?
Mm-hmm.
And again, it goes back to the psychology of, am I not feeling enough, so I need to buy more? Am I not feeling enough, so I need to go out? Am I, so disassociated with my body that I'm just going through the motions and doing what everyone else thinks I should do, versus coming within and saying, okay, what's taking place within me that I need external validation or this type of support or sabotage or, whatever's kind of taking place. And again, it comes back to your core beliefs. It comes back to emotions. It comes back to feeding your soul in some capacity, right? Like even buying those items, it's like there's some sort of satisfaction that's feeding. And so we just have to be very cognizant of what our behavior is, and is it really aligned with what our goals are? And that's what I love helping people see is, if you're doing things that aren't getting you to your goal, then you need to be thinking twice and looking at that, because that's where you're kind of missing the boat.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things that used to really scare me is I used to be really comfortable having like an idea, a dream, a thought, just something on the vision board. But I was terrified of taking the action. I was terrified of, I wouldn't take the action because I was afraid of like the outcome, like whether it was failing or succeeding. I don't know what I was afraid of, but I really had to learn to force myself to take the action to get where I want to go, instead of just putting in my vision board and hope that the tooth fairy brings me my dream, right? It doesn't work that way. I mean, you kind of have to take the steps to get there. And the other thing I want to ask you is, I know that you talk about mindfulness so much in your program. I mean, everything is kind of going within to learn that relationship with money. You meditate frequently, right?
Absolutely.
And how do you, I think for at least someone like me, the minute I close my eyes, it's like, I mean, it goes nuts, right? I mean, I can't,
yes.
And I avoid meditating, but I've been trying to do it the last 3 days just for 10 minutes. And it seems to be giving me more energy and just kind of evening out my day. But what advice would you give to people that don't even know how to meditate or even just slow down, to just get connected, just get out of that fight flight and just kind of be for 10 minutes, just to get that inner clarity that it gives you? How would you baby people through that and teach them how to just start?
One of the simplest things, I know when I started meditating, same thing like you, like my mind's going a million miles an hour and thinking of all the things I should be doing instead of sitting here. And is this really working? Am I doing it right? All the things that we think about. And I got to a place where I simply just focused on breathing, just consciously breathing in for 4 seconds and breathing out for 4 seconds. And doing that, even not even 10 minutes, just for a couple of deep breaths, brings you into a more centered place. Because the challenge is when we are in that hyperactive state, your mind is always racing and you're going to the next thing. But when we settle into our body, and that's something you can do before anything, you've got a meeting, so you take a couple of deep breaths, or you're starting a project and you take a couple of deep breaths. And in bringing yourself into that centered place, you actually open up your mind and your consciousness to receive more guidance than if it was just you trying to figure it out. And I think that's one of the beautiful things of what I love teaching people is really connecting with your higher self to make things easier. And I know sometimes that sounds weird, but I used to do this even as a tax accountant. I'd finish a tax return and I would literally just ask myself, okay, do I feel like I'm done with this return? And I'd take a couple of breaths, and if I felt, everything was complete, then there was a sense of peace with it. And if I didn't, I kind of had to set it aside, and I'd usually wait till the next day and I'd come back and I'd say, oh yeah, I forgot to, add depreciation in for the state or something, something else would come up. Mm-hmm. And so the more mindful I am, and, mindfulness to me is an ongoing thing. It's not kind of like meditation, even though we can sit down and be calm and relaxed for that time frame. I use meditation in my everyday life and asking those simple questions and breathing. And it brings me into a state where I'm more aware of even finding a mistake. When I did forensic accounting, it's like, show me where this account is screwed up or where things are off. And within split seconds, I would be directed towards something. And it wasn't like it was flashing in red or, it's just sort of like, I was being directed towards, look at this particular area. And I'd start looking and I was like, oh, that's where I'm off. Mm-hmm. And so it became, instead of being, this formal practice, it became sort of an integrative, how do I use this in everyday life? And the breath is the easiest thing. If you're upset at work, it's easier for you to walk in the bathroom, take 30 seconds, take a couple of deep breaths, and then you've got that calmness and composure, and you're not in fight and flight mode. You're not running, not only on adrenaline, but you're also not running from that emotional state, in that hyper emotional state where it's difficult to make decisions. You're not over processing in your head, and you're actually more, grounded in your body so that you do make better choices and decisions.
Right. That's awesome. So where can people, where can we find you? Are you, what social media outlets are you on?
Instagram at Good Vibe Jana.
Okay.
And let's see, Facebook. I've got Facebook page is Good Vibe Money. And then website is Good Vibe Money as well, goodvibemoney.com.
Awesome. And I'm going to put all of that in the chat when I post this video with her.
Awesome.
Thank you, Jana. I love that you're just like you're like the new 2020 financial guide with a spiritual twist. I mean, it's like a martini with a twist of lemon, you bring it all together and you make it so simplistic to make sense to anybody, and to just break it down and keep it simple, which I know for me, I just need things simple, especially things that I have a hard time wrapping my head around.
Everybody does, right?
Simple. Yeah.
Keep it simple.
Yeah, I love simple's good. It's not easy because everything that I've learned from you, the hardest thing is discipline, right?
Discipline and application, right? Like it's one thing to learn something. Isn't that part of the problem in learning something? The wisdom is actually applying it. Mm-hmm. And that's often where the disconnect happens is, somebody wants to learn something, but they get to a point and it's like, ooh, I don't want to apply this to my life, but yet it'll get them the exact results that they're looking for. So I'm glad you're seeing success with it, because that to me is what's making this all worth it.
Yeah. And it was so simple. I mean, the couple of things that you've brought to my attention and that I've gotten in the first 2 weeks are very simple things that have already changed my life. I mean, I think I've already saved, I'm already on track to save for a vacation, and just these little tricks, that I've been able to do. And then the discipline is just something that, for me, we get so used to doing something for so long that you really have to unwind your brain, and you've got to focus on something different every day. And it seems a little mundane. But if you give it, it's like that 21 days to make or break a habit, right? If
Oh,
you
yes.
focus on the same mantra every day for 21 days, your life is going to change,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, it's like anything. You can go to the gym for 8 hours and you'll see no results. In fact, you'll probably be really stiff and sore for a week.
Mm-hmm.
Yet, if you went to the gym for 30 minutes a day, every single day, at some point you're going to see results. And that's what you're looking for with anything that you're trying that's new, is doing something consistently until you start seeing the results, and then you look back at your life and go, wow, what else can I change?
Mm-hmm. Right. And once you overcome something that was hard, I mean, and we all have overcome something hard in our lives, but something, breaking a pattern like this, as simple as money, which is complicating because it's so psychological. But once you break through that and you learn a different way, it definitely makes your life better. So I appreciate you just being, giving women this space, and just through these hard times, making it affordable for people who, may have been furloughed or may just be working part-time or whatever, so they can still get a little fix, and they can still get plugged into something positive that you're teaching. Thank you for that.
No, thank you. It's, again, I want to be of service. And how can I support, especially women? How do I support them in getting to a different place?
Yeah. And earlier in my life, I mean, I couldn't go on and on with you about this, because just, my experience was I couldn't make it without a man. And so for me, that oh my God, right? That fight, flight, I can't make it without a man. I can't make enough money. Like, I've been in fight, flight mode, like, really my whole life, trying to figure it out. And so I'm constantly learning, you know what I mean? Whether I worked with Dave Ramsey like 5 years ago, but it wasn't enough. You know what I mean? Then you come along and you help me with these psychological things that I desperately need, because I'm still trying to get there. I'm nowhere near where I want to be. So I still need the help, you
You
know?
brought up a really good point, and this is actually another reason that I wanted to teach women about money. And if you look at money as an energy, it's a way that we give our power away. Because if you don't know how to manage money, let's say you get into a relationship, then you're like, oh, here, honey, you take care of the finances.
Mm-hmm.
But you're giving a portion of your power away in doing that. And I've actually seen the opposite where, like you said, you don't feel like you can make it without a man. And so women go into relationships for the wrong reasons. Like, they're not making ends meet. But if they're not understanding money, and if they're not making enough, then it makes sense to go into a relationship and, split the costs. So, I mean, these are just some of the core issues that we start to dive into that really affect, wow, do I really need this person in my life? And where am I giving my power away through that energy, through that, the money that I'm giving away, whether it's in my job or in a relationship or whatever. It's like that energy and that relationship with money really forces us to look at ourselves in our relationship, because money is a reflection of who we are, and it
Right.
literally magnifies who we are. So if you are a jerk, and when you make more money, you're still going to be a jerk. But if you are a generous, loving, compassionate person, you're going to still be that person just by making money. And then you can actually give more to the people you love, or charities, or whatever inspires your heart. So by having more money, to me, it's a gift, because I can do more. If I've been given that gift of money, I can do more by sharing more with other people.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of women I mean, and men too. I mean, men, nobody that really learns this, really, at least not to my knowledge, but, I speak for the women that have ever been in my shoes and felt just disempowered financially, to visit your website, and to visit your website with an open mind and an open heart, because what you have to offer is reasonable, it's affordable, and it's a no-brainer. It's not hard to wrap your head around this stuff, and you break it down so simply that you can just take those little baby steps and change your life.
It makes
And then the rest of you gets happier, and your relationships are better, all that stuff, because it's like you're working from the inside out.
Oh, yes.
You work from the inside out on your inside, and then the outside, you're having a better relationship with money and a better relationship with your spirit, which makes everything else better.
Very well said. I love
So
it.
thank you for being you. We need you in the world, and we need your services and your love and your compassion and just your understanding. So yeah, thank you so much for being here. I'm so grateful that you spent the time.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate being here. I love, that you're seeing so many amazing benefits and the shifts taking place in your life. So thank you.
Absolutely. Well, I will look forward to seeing you next week on week 3.
Sounds great. Thanks, Kelly.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.